Shake it up, man. Shaken, not stirred. Come on. Help me out here.
Oh
Help
my
me out.
gosh. Yeah, that's something. That's something.
That's something. All right.
All right.
Last one.
Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Welcome to the Greatest Lists podcast, a show about music and lists. This season, your hosts Jason and Eric are counting down the top 25 guitar solos of the 80s and the top 25 guitar solos of the 90s. Think your favorite made the list? Tune in and find out. Take it away, boys.
Welcome to Greatest Lists, a music and talk podcast featuring lists of the greatest songs of all time. I'm Eric, your host for this episode, and joining me, as always, is my faithful co-host, Jason. What's going on, Jason?
Okay, people, did you get it? James Bond, shaken, not stirred.
Did you get it, Gary? Did you?
Yeah. Yeah. Pointing right at Gary.
Gosh. We are continuing our season 2 list of our favorite guitar solos of all time. We're currently making our way through the 80s. But before we continue, this episode is sponsored by HalloweenCostumes.com, which features the largest online selection of Halloween costumes ever. Use our promo link in the show notes to save 15% off your entire order. Just click over and the savings are automatically in your cart. But you got to do it before October 31st, so get your orders in ASAP.
That's right, people.
This week, we are at number 15, and we're talking about the song Shake It Up from the Cars.
Behind the music.
Elliot Easton, born Elliot Steinberg, was born in 1953 and is a founding member of the Cars and was their lead guitarist. He was also the youngest member of the band. He fell in love with the guitar at the age of 3 when he saw a guy. I don't think I loved anything at 3.
Right.
Let alone picked out an instrument.
Yeah.
He fell in love with the guitar when he saw a guy on the Mickey Mouse Club playing an acoustic guitar decorated like a mouse. Not long after that, he saw Elvis playing a guitar on television, and he was hooked.
Mm-hmm.
He got his, which that seems to be a common thread through some of our people is that it is Elvis.
Well, Elvis and Jimi Hendrix.
Yes.
Yeah. Death of Jimi Hendrix. That's been a theme this year.
Yeah. He got his first real guitar at age 5, and he plays left-handed, which is not too common for guitar players. Eventually, after high school, he attended the Berklee School of Music, and then went on to form the Cars in 1976. The band's debut album was released in 78, went on to release 5 more albums over the next 9 years before breaking up in 1988. In 2013, the Gibson Guitar Company launched the Elliot Easton Tiki Bird Firebird guitar, which is a modified version of their Firebird model. And it comes in both left and right-handed models.
Let's get personal.
To use a phrase of yours, Jason, the Cars have always been a radio artist for me.
Okay.
I've liked all the songs that I've heard on the radio or seen the videos for. And I've actually always loved this solo, but I've never really dove into their catalog. Just for whatever reason, I just never dove into the catalog. But this summer, during my 100 Albums project, I added their debut album to my list. And that led me to check out some other stuff solely because I heard Elliot playing on that album.
Okay.
That led me to his solo album in 85. And then he had a newer group in 2013 called Elliot Easton's Tiki Gods, which is sadly not on Spotify. I had to go find that on YouTube.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so because of hearing that first album, I've checked out the rest of their catalog over the summer. So I did not have any history with the Cars until summer.
Yeah, you picked the wrong album, but that's okay.
actually, did that first album is amazing.
No, it is good. Yeah.
So what's your history with the Cars?
So the Cars, Initially, yeah, radio and a victim of the greatest hits era when I was, getting stuff from Columbia House. I went right for their greatest hits because of all the radio hits and top 40 hits that I heard over the years. But outside of their hits, I grabbed Heartbeat City on vinyl when I first started collecting. One of the first albums I remember getting because it's the gatefold and it's beautiful. And I've listened to that one many, many times since then, but also over the years versus, some of their other albums. But yeah, that one, it's just, I like the hits. That one's got Drive, which is one of my all-time favorite songs of any era, not just the 80s.
Right.
Drive is just, I love the song, which wasn't Rick Ocasek singing, but
right, Benjamin Orr.
That's right. But Heartbeat City is one I can listen to top to bottom, side to side, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Really, really enjoy that one.
Great album.
For the most part, the hits, I've always loved the hits. They have that unique mesh of traditional rock with synth.
Right.
And it's just gives them their own kind of personality. Blending really, like you were talking about in the Night Ranger album, is rock and roll dead because of all this synth pop that was coming over from England. And here you got a band that kind of embraces the new wave and mashes it with more rock.
Right, exactly.
And you get that unique sound, which not a lot of bands I think were incorporating. You had elements of it, and even in Van Halen, you hear some synth chords when you get to, like 1984 and Jump, and you think about them adding more synth to rock. And even 5150 after that, there's just all kinds of keyboard and synth in that. But the Cars, I think, really, when new wave hit in that late 70s, early 80s era, just embraced it and pushed it right into their own kind of sound.
I would agree with that. Yeah, that's the first thing I noticed when I listened to their debut album this summer was how well they mixed the rock sound with the keyboards. I mean, it wasn't like one overpowered the other. They blended it really well. And but I agree that Heartbeat City album is fantastic. I literally have listened to their entire catalog this summer because of hearing that first album.
And if you're a huge hard rock fan, you hate the Cars. You hate the synth sound. You don't want all that keyboard in there. Yep. Even probably you're pissed off at ZZ Top for putting it in there. But because they're just not the traditional, in your face and rock sound. So for those of us like me and you who can listen to new wave outside of the Cars and it's just a beautiful mashup, I think, of your tradition and then embracing what's new.
True.
The breakdown. So
I watched 11 YouTube videos of people trying to cover this solo. And I'm not exaggerating. I watched 11 videos of people playing this solo. None of them played it right. A couple of them technically got it right. By that I mean they played the right notes and at the right speed and played it cleanly. But every single one of them sounded robotic and or mechanical. This solo is full of finesse and feel, and that's the kind of player Elliot Easton is. In the way that he bends his notes and mutes his strings when he's playing. Even when he plays, there's a little fast run in the middle of the solo, the way he plays that. Nobody matched the way he was playing the solo. So in my mind, I was thinking, well, maybe it was just, he had the perfect take in when they were recording in the studio.
Right.
He just happened to get it right. So I went and watched a couple of videos of him playing the solo, like years later. One of which was just not that long ago, and it's the same. He sounds the same.
Wow.
It was not studio magic. It was Elliot Easton magic. That's the feel that he has.
Yeah.
And in listening to their entire catalog this summer, I've come to figure out that one of the things that he does really well is bend strings and bend notes. And he doesn't, and so part of the reason why nobody can match him totally is because he doesn't bend a full note, if that makes any sense. Like most people will bend up a string a half a step or a full step. He doesn't do that. He bends it partially. And so
gotcha.
You're aiming at a moving target basically because you're used to bending a half a step or a full step, but he's bending a little bit less, but he's doing it by feel. So to him, it feels natural. To you, to the regular guitar players, it feels weird. And so his technique in bending strings and bending notes is one of the things that sets him apart from other guitar players. I watched just an interview with him where he was actually playing for his signature amp line, and he was just playing around, and he can bend strings and make it sound like a lap steel on a regular guitar. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and that's just one of the techniques that he has mastered, and it's just part of his repertoire. But he does that in this solo. He does a lot of bends, and he bends it, the way that he feels it. And everybody else that was trying to play it bends it the way they think it should be bent, which is a half step or a full step, which is what most people do, and it breaks the whole solo.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're not playing it right because you're just a little bit off.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's what I like about him. It's just he plays with such feel and finesse, and it's not studio magic. It's the way he plays. And
right.
And like we said in the last episode about Billy Gibbons and the way he plays, it's not like the rest of the people in the '80s, but it's still just as good. And it's still just as the talent is still it's a different kind of talent. Most of the guys that you see in the '80s that can just burn up and down the neck probably couldn't stop and do the solo.
Well, yeah. And you don't think about that. I don't think about that when I think about the Cars either.
Yeah, no.
When I saw this song in the list, I was like, oh, okay, yes, there is a solo in there. And then I'm playing it through my mind, and then now going back and kind of dissecting it. It sounds real basic to start, but then it gets all crazy. So it's not quite one of those that you can sing along to,
right?
Because it does get so crazy in the middle. So it is a bit of a hybrid between being melodic and technical, which is kind of fits the band because they're a bit of a hybrid too.
Right, exactly.
So my mind just didn't go there when I saw that on the list, or even I think about the Cars.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some great guitar work, but I'm just not thinking about the solos. So exactly. I'm glad you put this in there because, this is really one of their quintessential songs as well.
Exactly.
And it's so much of an earworm, I think, that you're not. It's so catchy, and you're enjoying the song, but you're not really paying attention almost to the solo.
Yeah.
But it's so much fun. I do really enjoy this song. There's more beyond the solo too. Like Rick's vocals, there's this echo effect on it, and then you get all that fun backing vocals where it's like dance all night, go go go.
It's like the black tie.
Yeah. No, it's so catchy and fun to sing along to that your mind isn't necessarily grabbing when it gets to the solo, I think. So
right,
it's a good pick. I'm glad you put it in there.
Yeah, it's one of the three songs when we were in the pandemic lockdown. It was one of 3 songs that I picked out to try and learn the solo for.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was just saying just a minute ago, I could get the notes right and I could get the runs right, but I spent a good amount of time trying to figure out how to play just like him, and I couldn't even get. I mean, there were parts of it that I could come close, but there's just so much finesse that he plays with that it's just I just gave up. I was like, I'm close. That's fine.
Yeah.
So Shake It Up comes in at number 15 on our countdown. And I have 2 bonus songs for you this week. They're both from their debut album. The first one is My Best Friend's Girl
Oh yeah, that's a
And
great
then,
song.
The other one, also from their debut album, is a song called "Don't Just Stop." There's some great guitar work in that as well. If you have Spotify Premium, which we recommend, stay tuned. You'll hear those songs in their entirety. Otherwise, you're going to have to use the Song Whip links in the show notes to connect you to those songs in your favorite music app. You can also find us in social media. We're on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. Our account is @GreatestLists. You can also find us on YouTube @GreatestLists, or you can find us on our website, greatestlistspodcast.com. Jason will be back in charge for our number 14 song in the next episode.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for listening to Greatest Lists. We look forward to continuing our countdown in the next episode.
You've been listening to The Greatest Lists.